Thanks everyone for joining us and watching this video clip. I'm just going to talk you through some of the changes that we've needed to make to Year 8 technology, particularly in this home learning environment where lots of our assessment tasks really don't suit working from home, particularly not group work or access to equipment that you wouldn't typically have in the house like a laser cutter. So during this session, we're going to look at a couple of very quick things. First of all, those Term 3 assessments, what we're going to do over the next 2 weeks, that's weeks 5 and 6 of this term, how we continue to contact teachers, and then finally moving into weeks 7 to 10. So I've released now a updated assessment notification, and this notification applies to all Year 8 students, those students both doing the laser clock unit as well as those working on the Corner Bites Cafe. So it's being notified today, the 9th of August. The due date has not changed. So the due date is still the 13th of September, but I'll talk more to that in a moment. You'll notice that the task type has changed. It's a completely digital submission now, and the total marks are worth 35. The task itself is a very modified version of the previously published task, obviously because of the impact of remote learning on practical subjects. What we've essentially done is remove lots of the material that you weren't able to access at home. In terms of submission, it's all handed in digitally via Google Classroom, but you can certainly talk with the teacher to get more instruction on that, and I'll talk more to it during this session. As we come down the exam notification, you'll notice that the outcomes have not changed. For those students who are doing the industrial unit, there is the materials one. For those doing the cafe unit, there's the agriculture outcome, and the other two outcomes are identical. But let's move straight into the bit that really matters. What is it we're asking you to submit? I'll speak first to the clock students, those doing the industrial design unit. You'll have already done much of this work in class. So what we're asking you to submit is the 7 concept sketches, the 3 refined concepts, and then a final sketched design. So all of those designs are on paper, and what you'll have done is drawn them during class time. You'll have made annotations and comments on them. I'm asking you to either photograph them or scan them and upload them, and that will be marked out of 15. The second part of your submission for another 15 marks will be your final design created in Adobe Illustrator. Now, in terms of submission for that part, all I want you to do is when you've finished that design, go to print and print it as a PDF and submit the PDF document. So what you're handing in is not the Illustrator file, you're handing a PDF version printed out of what the clock would look like. And what I'm anticipating I will see on that design is the true blue and the true red lines in the right widths showing me what your design looks like. And I'll then be able to interpret those lines and work out which parts are etched, which parts are cut, and how your final design would look. And finally, again, a sheet you should have already made a really good start on is the research on different design areas. There's a worksheet attached to that, and that's available for you in Classroom. So for the industrial design group, those doing the clocks, they're the 3 things you need to hand in: the hand-drawn sketches, the PDF of your illustrated design, and your design eras worksheet. I'll move now to the students doing the food and agriculture. So this has been a group task, and obviously it's very difficult to do a group task when you can't get together as a group. So what's being submitted here is similar to what you needed to hand in for your folio anyway, but reduced significantly. So we're asking you to submit your criteria for success, your individual research, your recipe card, and from Google Classroom, worksheet 3 on urban city farming. So you can see the marking criteria there, 5 for the success criteria, and then 10 each for the remaining. All of those components are all available to you already, and you will have made a start on most of them in class time. I would note for the industrial students that final design must be a PDF. I don't want you uploading an Illustrator file. For the food and agriculture students, there's no expectation that the recipe card will include a photo of your cooked dish. So part of the original assessment task was that you needed to photograph the product that you produced in class time and then upload that as part of your recipe card. that's not part of the recipe card anymore, but you might choose to look for a similar sort of image to your food product on Google and insert that. There's no marks attached to that, but it might just help you in terms of the balance of the recipe card and how it looks. So just those couple of notes for all students. The final due date for submission is still the Monday of week 10, but you can submit it any time before then. All submissions are to go in the current assessments area for your class. So if you were in 8 Tech 2 and you were doing the laser clock, you would go to that section. You would upload links to all the files that you want the teacher to mark to that area and then turn it in. And once you've turned it in, you're done. Even if those worksheets appear elsewhere in Google Classroom, I want you to copy the link and insert the link into this area so that it's much easier for your teacher to see all those components rather than your teacher having to move around to try and find them all. It won't be a drama if you accidentally muck it up, but if you do need help with it, please ask your teacher before you press turn it in. It seems like for most people, accepting that remote learning is not our ideal way of learning, but for most people, you seem to be going pretty well talking with teachers through Zoom and working on email. I'd encourage you to keep doing that. I would note for Miss Risk's classes that she won't be in class for the next couple of weeks, but Mr. Smith will be in her classes, and you'll continue logging into Miss Risk's Zoom link, and Sir will be there for you. So that's the plan for the next couple of weeks in those classes. So for the next 2 weeks, the TAS teachers have all spoken together and we've agreed that what we're going to do is give you class time for the next 2 weeks, so all of week 5 and all of week 6 to get this done. For some students, there's going to be a reasonable amount to do, and for others, it'll only take an hour or so just to polish up work you've already done. Regardless of where you sit on that spectrum, for the next 2 weeks, you need to log on like normal every period, get your name marked off on the roll. You need to work on the technology assessment work in the first instance. But once you're finished and you've submitted it and you've turned it in and the teacher's happy they can see it all, then I'm really comfortable with you still continuing to log in. You've still got to turn up to your tech classes. But if you've got a maths assessment that's really stressing you out, you can work on that. If you're really struggling with English or history or geography or whatever subjects, you can work on that as well. But you can only work on those assessments after you've submitted the technology one. So we'll give you up to 5 periods over those 2 weeks. So every teaching period of technology between week 5 and week 6 is yours to work on this assessment. As soon as you're finished and you have submitted it, you are welcome to utilize that time to take stress out of your life elsewhere. What we're really trying to do here over the next 2 weeks is minimize the workload on you. I recognise, and all of you teachers recognise, that lots of subjects have got assessments due in the next month. That's really normal. It always happens at this time of the year, but normally we're at school. In this environment where people are stressed anyway, let's take some of that away. So there won't be any direct instruction happening during classes, but your teachers will be there to support you if you need it. So if you're struggling with something, you can absolutely ask your classroom teacher, but we're trying to take away the workload. I don't want anyone to be in the position where they feel like they've got to do lots of hours outside school to get this assessment done. Once we finish those 2 weeks, weeks 7 to 10, we're going to start a new unit on engineering. The whole year group will do it in exactly the same way as last year. We all did food at the same time. Last term we did coding at the same time. This time we'll all do the engineering unit together, and we're going to try a new one. If you Google CO2 dragster, you'll get lots of examples. But essentially what we'll be doing is taking blank balsa wood blocks and applying engineering principles to try and make the fastest or the prettiest or the most interesting vehicle you can. And what we'll do is we'll put the little gas canisters in the holes at the back of the blocks. We'll attach the wheels to the cars, and we'll have a starting and stopping line, which has got a timer, and we'll race them. So the whole year group will have the opportunity to compete against each other on a few different criteria. So we'll look at which ones are the most interesting, which ones are the prettiest, which ones are the funniest, and which ones are obviously the fastest as well. So that should be a really enjoyable way to wrap up the end of the year. And we'll do that from beginning of week 7 right through until Christmas now. So we'll start off, and the actual submission for this will be somewhere around week 4 of term 4. And then for the balance of the 6 weeks, we'll then look at alternate power sources for it. So I'm really excited by this. I hope you will be too. I think it'll be really enjoyable, and that's where we're travelling. So I hope this few minutes has given you some comfort. Really, the purpose of the conversation is to say, here's the replacement assessment task. It looks a lot like the old one, except we've taken lots of parts out. It's a fully digital submission, and you've got the next 2 weeks in class time to work on it to try and minimise the stress on you at home. If you've got questions, please let your tech teacher know in the first instance, or feel free to email me. Thanks so much.